Hi there. I am following a series of lectures given by Stefan Hollier on the Red Book or Liber Nova by Carl Gustav Jung. And I'm on to lecture 2 at the moment, and I suddenly had a little bit of an insight into answering the question, why? Why does the soul separate itself from the supernal world, from the good God, and journey down into the lower worlds or the finite worlds or the worlds of the demiurge and then come back up and go back home again? What's the reason? And I think it's fourfold, actually, the reason. I think in the first place, it's a journey of exploration on the part of the soul, but it's also a story of the transformation of the lower mind, the brain, the actual physical brain, and the way that the brain functions in relation to what it perceives. But first things first, I think the purpose of the soul's journey is to know, to understand, and also, and importantly, and this was what I got from the lecture, from Jung's Red Book, is to befriend the demiurge, the world of matter, and the actual mind, or the workings of the human brain itself, the lower part of the mind, the lower part of the soul, if you want to put it that way as well. And in my book Grail Gnosticism, I do talk about the forgiveness of the demiurge and the power of forgiveness, and to see the demiurge not as an evil thing, but as a thing in itself, not even a necessary thing, just a thing in itself. So the finite worlds, which I've depicted here as a sort of band going across an infinite amount of space, it is as it is, and the demiurge is as it is as well. And of course, so matter and the world, obviously, to understand, to know and to understand and to befriend, to bring the lower world or the world of matter under the auspices of Keter, Binah, and Choma, to put it in Kabbalistic terms. And then finally to understand and befriend the workings of the actual human brain. And, all human thought processes are either to do with movement towards or movement away from something. Even the most primitive of animals have this algorithm of going towards a food source or a mate, going away from a source of danger or source of some extreme environmental condition. And that's basically it. A centrifugal force, a centripetal force. These are the two forces, the forces of attraction, the forces of repulsion. And these forces are basically the algorithm. This is the basic algorithm of all life on Earth, all sentient life. Or in fact, even some plants with their tropins exhibit this as well. So, but that's one thing. But then in the actual section, which has been discussed in lecture 2, it seems to me that soul also wishes to teach the monkey mind, the actual physical brain of the individual, about how to contact soul without intentionality and without an agenda, as Jung puts it. So if the purpose of soul is to sort of come down and to teach people who are willing to be taught about the supernal world, and about how how to square the circle, how to bring, how to reach non-duality, how to reach non-dualistic thinking. And if the soul can do that to the individual, if it can teach, and if it can befriend the workings of the mind, and if the mind can then befriend the workings of matter and the workings of the demiurge, then the soul will have fulfilled its ultimate purpose in actually separating from the supernal world, from God, and then going back to God. Of course, there is the phrase separated for the joy of union. And I suppose there is that to it, that the soul separates itself for the joy of union. But even that doesn't seem like a strong enough motivation, really. That phrase almost seems like an axiom that belongs to possibly the finite worlds, the world of the demiurge. In fact, it doesn't go far enough. But if the soul is trying to forge a relationship between the human individual mind, or the human individual brain, in fact, and seeking to, in some way, transform the thinking processes of that brain, so it forms a new relationship with everything that's going on around it in its environment, and even to the demiurge ultimately, and to the Lord of Air, which is kind of a metaphor for the demiurge. Then the soul will have fulfilled its purpose, and the soul can then return home, having done what it came to do, which was to teach. The soul is the great teacher. It brings down the essence of the supernal world to teach sentient beings in the lower worlds about how to think in a new way, how to think in a way which is of the same stuff, or homoousios, to the supernal world, to where the soul has come from. And this puts everything in an entirely new light, really, because then it becomes obvious, really, why the soul left in the first place, because it really has been very difficult for a lot of people to see why on earth there should be separation and then reunification. There must be some people thought, well, it's a test or something, a test for the soul, but the soul isn't being tested, the soul isn't being educated. It's in fact the individual sentient being who consists of soul, but also of just neurological processes, just a physical brain. And it's really rewiring the brain, if you like, reconstituting it, giving it new algorithms that it could never get from its existence in the world, because it's that basic algorithm of push and pull, attraction, repulsion, moving towards, moving away. That algorithm is good for the brain in this, where it finds it in this environment of the lower worlds. But imagine if the soul could teach the brain to react in a whole different way, not according to its usual algorithm, but a completely different algorithm, which would be more to do with befriending, and more to do with non-dualistic thinking. Then that would make a whole lot of sense, actually, as far as the cosmology is concerned, the cosmology of the soul's journey. But I mean, this is obviously a work in progress. I don't fully understand it, really. And I don't really fully understand. Well, perhaps the algorithm is perhaps the purpose is to make the brain connect with soul without intentionality, without an agenda, and to basically, to actually create or to enhance or magnify the intuitive power that the neurological processes of the human brain are capable of, but in this world it finds it incapable of actually developing. So there's it basically that's the reason why soul makes its journey down into hell, why Persephone goes down into hell, um, and and so it's going to return not changed itself. Soul doesn't change itself, but it changes everything it touches in the lower worlds, provided, of course, that the sentient being, namely Homo sapiens sapiens, is ready to receive the gnosis and responds to the gnosis and responds to those who have gnosis and who transmit the gnosis to other human beings. So that's really it. This is my little contemplation arising from Carl Gustav Jung's Red Book.